We are going to compare between simple interest and compound interest. We'll assume that two identical scenarios, the only difference will be is the interest rate. One of them will be simple interest, the other one will be compound interest. So let's assume that we have 3 years and we are going to deposit $1,000 today. The same with compound interest. We have a maturity of 3 years and we're going to deposit $1,000 today. Interest rate is 10% per annum, which is the same for both scenarios. The only difference is in the first scenario we use simple interest, in the second scenario we use compound interest. So let's start with the simple interest. What will be our interest amount? Our interest amount is equivalent to principal times simple interest times time. It's equal to 1,000 times 10% times 3 years. This will give us 300. Therefore, what will be our interest amount every year? It will be $100 every year. Therefore, for 3 years, we will have $300. Consequently, our future value in year 3, it will be principal plus interest amount, so it will be 1,000 plus 300, which will give us 1,300. Therefore, we'll end up with a total value of 1,300 at the end of year 3. When we talk about compound interest, let's calculate it year by year. So, what will be the interest amount in year 1? It is the principal at year 0 multiplied by simple interest multiplied by time, which is equal to 1,000 times 10% times 1, so it will give us 100. So here in the first year we will get 100, which is similar to simple interest for the first year only. Then, what will be the future value at the end of year 1? It is the principal at year 0 plus the interest amount in year 1. So it's 1,000 plus 100, so it will be 1,100. Then, what will be the interest amount in year 2? The interest amount in year 2, it will be our new principal, which is the value at the end of year 1, which is composed with our original principal and the interest earned, which is 100. Therefore, it will be 1,000 plus 100, which is 1,100, multiplied by 10% multiplied by 1, which will give us 110. Therefore, the interest earned in year 2 will be 110, which is bigger compared to simple interest of 100. Why? Because now we get interest on our principal and interest on previous interest. So what will be the future value in year 2? It will be the principal in year 1 plus interest amount in year 2, which is equal to 1,100 plus 110, which will give us 1,210. So what will be the interest amount in year 3? It will be the principal paid in year 2 multiplied by simple interest multiplied by time, which is 1,210 times 10% times 1. It will give us 121. Therefore, I know that the interest in year 3, 121, in compound interest, which is much higher compared to 100 in year 3 of simple interest. Therefore, what will be the future value at the end of year 3? It will be the principal in year 2 plus interest amount in year 3, so it will be 1,210 plus 121. This will give us 1,331. So, do we have one formula to calculate the compound interest instead of doing all these steps? Yes, we have a compound interest formula, which is the principal or present value multiplied by 1 plus I to the power n. So let's substitute. We started with $1,000 multiplied by 1 plus 10% to the power 3. It will give us 1,331, which is exactly the same as the one we did with these detailed steps. So, if I'd like to compare the future value of simple interest compared to a compound interest, with simple interest it's 1,300, with compound interest it's 1,331. Therefore, I know that compound interest would always result in a higher future value compared to simple interest. Why? Because simple interest, it will give you interest on principal only, and that's why we discover that interest amount is constant every year. So if we'd like to draw it, here in year 0 we have our principal, which is $1,000. In year 1 we will get the same principal, and then we'll get an interest for 1 year, which is $100. In year 2 we'll have the same principal. We have the interest for year 1 plus the interest for year 2, 100 and 100 each. In year 3 we have our original principal, which is $1,000. We have interest of $100 in year 1, interest of $100 in year 2, and interest of $100 in year 3. And that's why we'll end up in year 3 with a future value of 1,000 plus 100 plus 100 plus 100, which is equal to 1,300. While compound interest, it gives you interest on principal and interest on previous interest as well. And that's why we call it compounding or compound interest. Let's draw it. In year 0, we have a principal of $1,000. In year 1, we will have the same principal plus an interest of 100%, which is 1,000 times 10%. It will give you 100. In year 2, we will have the original principal, which is 1,000, and we have the interest which we earned in year 1, which is 100, and then we will have a new interest of 110. How did we get it? It's interest on the original principal, which is $1,000, plus interest on previous interest, which is 10% times 100, it will give you $10. Therefore, I will get interest on the previous interest, which is $10, and interest on the principal, which is $100, so it will be a total of 110. What about year 3? In year 3, we'll have our original principal, which is $1,000, and then we have the interest in year 1, which is 100, the interest in year 2, which is 110, and then the interest in year 3 will be higher. It will be 121. Why? Because we got 10% multiplied by 1,000, which is 100, plus 10% multiplied by 100, which is 10, plus 10% multiplied by 110, which is 11. So if we get the total, it will be 121. Therefore, the future value at the end of year 3 will be 1,000 plus 100 plus 110 plus 121, which is 1,331. Therefore, the future value of compound interest will always be higher compared to simple interest. Why? Because the compounding interest, which means we receive interest on interest as well as interest on principal in the case of compound interest. While for simple interest, we receive interest on principal only.